Colombia to increase tariffs on goods imported from US to 25%. Israeli forces kill 22 people in southern Lebanon as withdrawal deadline expires. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You are currently tuning into World Today with me, Mohana Priya. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto arrived in Malaysia this morning for a state visit at the invitation of His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, King of Malaysia. The special aircraft carrying the president landed at the Royal Malaysian Air Force Base at 5:50 a.m. Natural Resources and Environment Sustainability Minister Nik Nazmi Nik Ahmad was present to greet Prabowo's delegation, which included several Indonesian cabinet ministers and senior government officials. Upon his arrival, Prabowo inspected a guard of honour consisting 28 officers and personnel from the 1st Battalion Royal Ranger Regiment under the command of Captain Muhammad Shafiq Najmi Mazlan. According to Wisma Putra, the state visit reflected the strong and special bond of friendship between Malaysia and Indonesia, and is also the first state visit by a foreign head of state since the installation of His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim as King of Malaysia. The visit includes a state welcoming ceremony followed by an audience with His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim at Istana Negara. His Majesty will also graciously host a state banquet in honour of the President and his delegation. In the afternoon, Prabowo is scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim to exchange views on bilateral cooperation and regional and international issues of mutual interest. US President Donald Trump has approved the delivery of weapons, ammunition, bombs and military equipment to Israel. Trump confirmed yesterday that a lot of things ordered and paid for by Israel but have not been sent by Biden were now on their way. That includes the delivery of 1,800 Mk-84 bombs, a shipment that had been delayed for months. Trump's statement on Truth Social follows the Pentagon's decision to lift a hold on the munitions which had been imposed last May by the Biden administration. Axios reported that the hold was lifted after Israeli officials were notified on Friday by the Pentagon. The 2,000-pound bombs had been stored in the US and are expected to be delivered in the coming days. The hold, which Biden put in place to protest Israel's military actions in the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah, triggered one of the most significant crises in US-Israel relations during the Israeli onslaught against the enclave. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had used the delay as a political tool, rallying support from American Republican lawmakers who criticized Biden's stance, even as the hold was in response to concerns about the potential for civilian casualties in Gaza. And on another matter, the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE officers and other federal agents conducted arrests in Chicago yesterday. Trump launched a wide-ranging immigration crackdown after taking office on 20th January, sending U.S. troops to the border and empowering immigration agents to pick up more non-criminals. The Trump administration last week deputized law enforcement agents with several Justice Department agencies to conduct immigration enforcement to supplement ICE efforts. Agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF, Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, and U.S. Marshals Service were granted the authority. A Justice Department official said that the first arrest in Chicago involved an immigrant living illegally in the U.S. who had killed a 19-year-old woman while driving under the influence. Colombia is set to increase tariffs on goods imported from the United States by 25%. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said this is in response to sanctions by the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump after Colombia refused to accept a plane with deported migrants. The U.S. imposed sanctions and 25% tariffs on all goods from Colombia over Bogota's refusal to accept deported migrants. Trump warned that this was only the beginning, saying that Washington would not allow Bogota to violate its obligations to accept Colombian citizens deported from the United States. Trump also banned Colombian officials from entering the United States, imposed visa restrictions on their family members and other close associates, and imposed enhanced screening on all Colombian citizens at the U.S. border. Trump, back in office for less than a week, promised to impose 25% tariffs on products from Colombia, the source of 1/5 of coffee in the United States, and to raise them to 50% in a week. 5 Palestinians, including a child, were injured yesterday when Israeli forces opened fire on a group of displaced persons gathered in central Gaza. The incident took place on Al-Rashid Street near the Taba al-Nawari area west of the Nuseirat refugee camp as the displaced Palestinians were waiting to be allowed to return to Gaza City and northern Gaza in line with a ceasefire agreement. A medical source at Al-Awda Hospital in the Nuseirat refugee camp confirmed the arrival of the 500 individuals, including the child. Witnesses reported that hundreds of displaced Palestinians had spent the night in the open, enduring cold temperatures while awaiting permission to return home. Israeli military vehicles positioned along the Netzarim corridor, an area separating northern and southern Gaza, opened fire on the group of displaced persons. They were waiting for the Israeli army to withdraw and allow them to return to the north under the ceasefire agreement. Israeli authorities have refused to allow the return of Palestinian residents to the northern Gaza until Arbel Yehud is released. Hamas confirmed that the hostage would be released during the next swap. On the first day of the ceasefire, Israel released 90 Palestinian detainees in return for 3 Israeli captives set free by Hamas. Israeli forces killed 22 people in South Lebanon yesterday as the deadline for their withdrawal passed, and thousands of people trying to return to their homes in defiance of Israeli military orders. Meanwhile, 124 others were injured in the shooting incident. Lebanese authorities said Zionist forces opened fire on the villages of Hola and Kfar Kila in southern Lebanon as thousands of residents tried to return to their hometowns. The authorities claimed that the Zionist regime forces are trying to delay their withdrawal. As of Friday, the Israeli army has violated the ceasefire nearly 660 times since it came into force at the end of last November. A ceasefire agreement was reached on 27th November to end more than 14 months of fighting between the Israeli army and the Lebanese group Hezbollah. Lebanon said it would extend a ceasefire deal with Israel until mid-February, even though the Israeli military failed to meet a deadline to withdraw its troops. The parties have traded blame for the delay in implementing the agreement, and on Friday, Israel said it would keep troops across the border in South Lebanon beyond the pull-out date. Iran has unveiled its largest ever drone, which it named Gaza, in honor of the Palestinian enclave that has been devastated by 15 months of war. Commander-in-Chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Major General Hossein Salami, and Commander of the IRGC Aerospace Force, Amir Ali Hajizadeh, inspected the drone yesterday. Hajizadeh said the drone can carry up to 12 bombs and will be used in border operations. The Gaza Strip, home to 2.3 million Palestinians before the war, has been mostly laid to waste after more than a year of combat between Israel and the enclave's Iran-backed rulers, Hamas. Israel launched its campaign in Gaza after the 7th October Hamas attack, where 1,200 people were killed and took more than 250 hostages to Gaza. Since then, Israel's campaign has killed more than 47,000 Palestinians in Gaza before ceasefire agreement took place last week. South Korean officials conducting an investigation into the Jeju airplane crash that occurred last month have presented a preliminary accident report to the United Nations Aviation Agency, as well as to the authorities of the United States, France and Thailand. The investigation into the deadliest air disaster on the country's soil remains ongoing. The report stated focused on the role of bird strike and involving an analysis of the engines and the localizer landing guidance structure. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, the UN agency, requires accident investigators to produce a preliminary report within 30 days of the accident and encourages a final report to be made public within 12 months. On December 29th, the Boeing 737-800 aircraft, which was traveling back from Bangkok to Muan International Airport, failed to stop on the runway during an emergency belly landing and collided with the localizer structure. The tragic accident resulted in the deaths of all but 2 of the 181 individuals, including crew members, on board. Coming up, thousands of Congolese flee as Rwandan-backed fighters close in. Stay with us.
In 2025, Malaysia proudly leads the ASEAN community into a new era of unity, growth, and opportunity. Together with 10 Southeast Asian nations, Malaysia is driving progress in trade, innovation, sustainability, and tourism. Explore the best of Malaysia, from its stunning landscapes to its rich cultural heritage. Be part of global events, business summits, and exciting festivals throughout the year. Join us in 2025. Discover new connections, celebrate unity, and experience the future of Southeast Asia. ASEAN Malaysia 2025. Together, we rise.
Welcome back. Rwandan-backed fighters closed in on eastern Congo's largest city of Goma on Sunday, forcing thousands of civilians to flee and grounding flights from the local airport as government forces battle to stop the rebels from seizing the city. The M23 rebel movement has made rapid advances this month in Democratic Republic of Congo's mineral-rich but conflict-riven eastern borderlands, raising fears that the fighting could spill over into a regional war. UN peacekeepers are supporting the Congolese army's efforts to curb the M23 as part of the MONUSCO mission's years-long mandate to counter the many rebel groups active in eastern Congo. MONUSCO's official X account posted photos showing what it said were its blue helmet soldiers in position to help repel a possible M23 advance. 3 years into their current insurgency, the rebels, who the United Nations says receive backing from neighboring Rwanda, now control more Congolese territory than ever before. Kigali has denied supporting the group. M23 fighters began moving on Goma, the capital of North Kivu province and home to about 1 million people, earlier this week, and have vowed to seize the city. Kenya's President William Ruto urged presidents of Rwanda and Congo to heed the call of peace on Sunday. Ruto said that the leaders of the East Africa Community EAC bloc had agreed to hold an extraordinary summit to address the current conflict in eastern Congo.
I call on the parties to the Luanda process on eastern DRC and appeal specifically to my brothers, President Felix Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame, both of whom I have had the occasion to speak to this evening, to heed the call for peace from the people of our region and the international community. We will be convening an extraordinary East African Community Summit within the next 48 hours to facilitate and to deliberate on this crisis and chart a way forward.
EAC leaders have faced significant challenges in addressing the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Despite multiple summits and peace initiatives, such as the Luanda process, their efforts have often been criticized for lacking effectiveness and failing to produce lasting solutions. 3 years into their insurgency, the M23 rebels now control more Congolese territory than ever before and have vowed to seize Goma, the capital of North Kivu province and home to about 1 million people. Around 1,000 people marched in Warsaw at the call of the exiled Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya in reaction to Belarus autocrat leader Alexander Lukashenko winning the presidential election. Lukashenko, in power since 1994, won a seventh consecutive term in office Sunday in an election denounced by the European Union and the exiled opposition. With his opponents in prison or exiled, the 70-year-old ruler appeared to have won 87.6% of the vote, according to an official exit poll. Lukashenko has orchestrated a ruthless crackdown on opponents since huge protests against him in 2020. This time round, the candidates picked to run against him actually campaigned in his favor. Exiled opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya called the election a farce, while the EU described it as a sham. Lukashenko, however, said he did not care whether or not the bloc recognized the results. The vote took place 5 years into unprecedented repression in Belarus, during which the rights groups say the country has jailed more than 1,200 political prisoners. In Sunday's election victory, he won more of the vote than in 2020, when he won 81.04%. Dutch frigate Trump arrived in Tallinn in mid-January as part of the Baltic Sentry operation to help protect critical infrastructure following a string of incidents in which power cables, telecom links and gas pipelines were damaged in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. On Sunday, Latvia said an undersea fiber optic cable between Latvia and Sweden was damaged and that the Navy had dispatched a patrol boat to inspect a vessel sailing towards Russia suspected of involvement. Latvia's Navy said 2 other vessels in the area were also subject to investigation. Latvian Prime Minister Evika Silina said that there was most likely damage from an external force and that it is significant. Latvia is coordinating with NATO and the countries of the Baltic Sea region to clarify the circumstances. Baltic Sentry is made up of frigates, patrol aircraft and Navy drones deployed in the Baltic Sea, and forces reserve the right to take action against ships suspected of posing a security threat. Finland's Prime Minister, in a statement, said the latest cable damage highlighted the need to increase protection for critical undersea infrastructure in the Baltic Sea. The cable that broke on Sunday linked the Latvian town of Ventspils with Sweden's Gotland Island and was damaged in Sweden's exclusive economic zone. The Philippines penalized 2,765 police officers in 2024, with 903 dismissed from service. The Philippine National Police Chief General Romel Francisco Marbil said among the punished police officers, 1,112 received suspensions, including a colonel, 19 lieutenant colonels, 29 majors, 30 captains and 22 lieutenants. Marbil said 903 officers were dismissed, including 5 lieutenant colonels, 6 majors, 12 captains and 5 lieutenants. Other penalties include demotion, forfeiture of salary, reprimand, restriction and withholding privileges. Only recently, Marbil placed under restrictive custody 20 active duty police officers who were charged over a high-profile drug bust in the Philippine capital in late 2022. Floodwaters submerged cars and buildings in the western French city of Rennes on Sunday as storm Herminia reached parts of western France. Weather service Météo France forecasted gusts of up to 150 kilometers per hour, as well as high waves in coastal areas in the region of Brittany. Météo France has placed 10 French departments in orange alert, its second highest, as Herminia is expected to travel France northward until Monday. The stormy episode comes days after Storm Eowyn battered Ireland and Northern Ireland, leaving 1 man dead and almost 1/3 of Irish homes and businesses without power and forcing the cancellation of hundreds of flights. In sports, United bags 3 points in slim win over Fulham. Stay with us.
banggakan Malaysia. Bersedia, aksi kini kembali. Setiap pasukan terus gagah berdiri, mempertahan maruah, mencipta sejarah, tidak tentara sadar, terus memburu peluang, meletus ledakan. Satu perjuangan, satu sorakan kemenangan, tiada mencari buruan, hanya di RTM. Rakan bergiat, rakan berniat, hanya di RTM. Rakan bergiat, rakan bergiat.
You're watching World Today. Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, Ruben Amorim welcomed a rare clean sheet in Manchester United's 1-0 win at Fulham on Sunday, but did not gloss over his side's need to improve despite a vital 3 points. United climbed to 12th in the table, now a comfortable 13 points above the bottom three. Lisandro Martinez deflected winner offered some respite to Amorim, who had won just 4 of his 12 Premier League games in charge. But their performance was in keeping with many others under 2 different managers this season against sides with a fraction of their budget. There was little to get United co-owner Jim Ratcliffe excited as he watched on in West London, but victory does dispel any remaining notion that United could be dragged into a relegation battle. Fulham made the brighter start, but they were also guilty of a lack of penetration in a pedestrian 90 minutes. The visitors could also have extended their advantage deep into stoppage time when Amad Diallo's strike was ruled out for offside by a VAR review. Defeat dampens Fulham's European ambitions as they remain in 10th, 7 points off the top 6. In another match, Aston Villa's hopes of Champions League qualification for a second consecutive season were dented as an understrength West Ham battled back to earn a 1-1 draw in Birmingham. Jacob Ramsey's strike was just reward for a fast start by Unai Emery's side. Graham Potter was forced to name 4 fullbacks in his starting lineup for the injury-hit Hammers, who were without captain Jarrod Bowen. However, the visitors rallied in the second half and were unfortunate not to take all 3 points after Emerson Palmieri's header levelled. Lucas Paqueta thought he had won the game in stoppage time, but Thomas Souček had strayed offside before teeing up the Brazilian to quell Potter's jubilant celebration on the touchline. Villa remain in 8th, 4 points off the top 4, while West Ham sit at 14th. Barcelona snapped their 4-match winless streak in the La Liga with an emphatic 7-1 victory over Valencia on Sunday, with Fermin Lopez scoring an impressive double and adding 2 assists. De Jong opened the scoring after just 3 minutes with a right-footed shot that found the bottom left-hand corner. Ferran Torres doubled the lead 5 minutes later when he latched onto Alejandro Balde's through ball. Rafinha then capitalized on a defensive error to make it 3-0 before the 15-minute mark. Lopez added a 4th on 24 minutes and a 5th before the break with a powerful shot from the right. Hugo Duro grabbed a consolation for Valencia after the break with a shot from close range. But Barcelona continued to dominate and substitute Robert Lewandowski added a 6th before an unfortunate own goal from Cesar Tarrega sealed Hansi Flick's side victory. Barcelona sit 3rd in the standings with 42 points, 3 behind second-placed Atletico Madrid and 7 behind leaders Real Madrid. And over at the Saudi Pro League, Cristiano Ronaldo rounded off the scoring as Al Nassr beat bottom-placed Al Fateh 3-1 to climb up to 3rd in the standings on Saturday. The hosts went into the break with a 1-0 lead following an own goal by Moroccan midfielder Marwane Sardin before doubling their lead in the 57th minute through Mohamed Simakan, who headed in from a free kick. Al Nassr moved up to 3rd on 35 points, 1 ahead of Al Qadsiya, who host table toppers Al Hilal on Monday. Al Hilal and Al Ittihad sit top of the log on 43 points, with the former ahead on goal difference, while the latter face Damak away from home also on Monday. And moving on to tennis, a clinical Jannik Sinner emptied the tank to sweep past Alexander Zverev and retain his Australian Open title on Sunday, cementing his status as the world's dominant player in men's tennis. The 23-year-old Italian came through a tense final between the two highest-ranked players, 6-3, 7-6, 6-3, on the Rod Laver Arena. Sinner opened with a statement ace and won his first two service games to love, with Zverev struggling to get himself on the contest. The German began to find his radar, taking 4 points off one Sinner serve in a game that went to deuce twice as the rallies built. But the dam burst in the 8th game. Zverev saved 3 break points but had no answer for a fourth when he was beaten by a blazing passing shot to slump 5-3 behind. Sinner took the set in 46 minutes and kept the pressure on in the second. The Italian has a phenomenal ability to turn recovery shots into momentum-changing ones, and he raised 15-40 clear on the Zverev serve at 1-1. Once more, the second seed dug deep to cling on. From then on, they couldn't be separated, and it went on to a tie-break where Sinner got a lucky net cord that dribbled over to break for a 5-4 and streaked to a 2-set lead. Sinner broke for 4-2 when Zverev sent a forehand long, and there was no way back for the increasingly disillusioned German. He became the first Italian to win 3 Grand Slams, surpassing Nicola Pietrangeli. And in motorsports, French driver Sébastien Ogier said he followed his lucky start to a record-extending 10th Monte Carlo rally on Sunday. The 41-year-old, an 8-time former world champion, took the season opener he first won in 2009 with his Welsh Toyota teammate Elfyn Evans in second. Ogier, who once again is only competing part-time this season, took the lead in the event steeped in motorsport history on Friday afternoon. On the roads he knows like the back of his hand, Ogier completed his perfect 10 with a near 20-second cushion over Evans to cement his status as the master of Monte Carlo. Ogier said he was unsure whether he would be back in 2026 to try and notch up an 11th win on the foothills of the Alps. Ogier's countryman Adrien Fourmont, behind the wheel of a Hyundai, completed the podium. Defending world champion Thierry Neuville made a quiet start to the defense of his title, finishing 6th on Sunday, his hopes harpooned by an early crash, a deflated tyre, and an electrical issue. Cal Rovanpera, champion in 2022 and 2023, took a semi-sabbatical last season, although he has still won 4 of the 7 rallies he took part in. The WRC season moves on to Sweden next month, with Ogier topping the fledgling standings on 33 points from Evans on 26 and for more 6 points further adrift. And that's it from us this afternoon. A recap of our top story: Colombia to increase tariffs on goods imported from the US to 25% in response to sanctions imposed by the Trump administration. Do join us again this evening on TV1 and Salura and Berita RTM at 8:30 p.m. or you can always stream us live on RTM Click's website and mobile app. Till then, I'm Mohana Priya. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Have a great day ahead.